The scripture says about itself, it says that the word of the Lord is as silver, tried in a furnace of earth and purified 7 times. You know, why 7 times? Because 7 is the number of completion. In the Hebrew Bible, there are words that have a relationship one with the other that are sometimes it's surprising. 2 words that have a relationship with each other that you may not expect is the Hebrew number sheva, which is 7, and the Hebrew verb shavah, which is to make an oath. Sheva, sheva. In ancient Hebrew, without the vowel markings, these words are spelled exactly the same. So the reason these words are related is because of ancient custom. When you stood to swear an oath, there was sometimes an exchange of property that would happen in units of 7. They would repeat the oath 7 times. There would be witnesses. The idea of an oath in ancient days was to bind yourself to consequences if you did not fulfill the stipulation of the oath. Some could say that the number 7 is one of the most, if not the most important numbers in all of the Scripture. It carries with it the idea of an oath, standing in front of witnesses and rehearsing the stipulations of the oath. And it also carries with it the idea of completion, the idea of bringing something into a completed state. That's why there were 7 days of creation. That's why when the feast days were given, the annual feast days numbered 7, and the children of Israel were commanded through Moses to mark the calendar beginning with the first feast. So the first feast commences a cycle, and all 7 feasts represent the full cycle of a year. So the idea is completion. A completed work in the eyes of God looks like something that begins without hope and ends in the image of God. It begins in void and it ends in a garden of perfection. The 7 days of creation overlay with the 7 feast days that were given to Moses. And the feast days begin with the idea of redemption. The Lord told Moses that this was how you mark your calendar. This is the beginning of days. This is the beginning of the year, the Feast of Redemption, which is the Passover. And the Passover corresponds with the first day of creation. So why an oath is so important when you begin to study the Scriptures is that the first thing you see about God is His power in the Scriptures. Any being, for lack of a better term perhaps, any being that could create the universe would at bare minimum be terrifyingly powerful. And then the second thing you begin to see in the Scriptures after having seen this demonstration of power is that you began to see that God associates Himself with an oath, that He swears something, that He binds Himself to a word. The Scripture says that because He could swear by no greater, He swore by Himself. I'm sure that you've probably heard God is a promise-keeping God. But you first have to understand that He's a promise-making God, because that in itself begins to demonstrate His nature. His nature is to draw nigh to you and to bind Himself to you by something that He swore that He would do for you. That He swore that He would visit this earth in redemption. That He swore that He was going to take a people out of this earth that would demonstrate what His loving kindness is. The feast days were given so that you could comprehend each tender moment that He has designated to make you into the image and into the likeness of Jesus Christ. You will never be in that image by a work that you can do. It has to be by the work of God. He began in redemption because the nation of Israel could not redeem themselves, but He redeemed a people to Himself. And every step that you take with Him thereafter is a reflection of His workmanship. You are the workmanship of God in Jesus Christ, and you have been created unto good works by Him and through Him and by no other power